Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Velocity 2016 in Santa Clara. I'm here with Assaf Resnick. Assaf, how you doing?
I'm good, good. Thanks for having me.
So in roughly 2012, you formed a company called BigPanda.
That's right.
And what were you trying to solve? What problem were you attacking in the world?
Sure. So in my previous life, I was an investor with Sequoia Capital. And one of the things that I noticed was this kind of democratization of IT infrastructure has been a really good thing for the creation of companies. Because I don't have to go to Oracle and pay them a bunch of money for their offerings. I don't have to set up a on-premise infrastructure. I can go to Amazon, I can go to Heroku, I can use all this open source software. But I noticed that as our companies scaled from small startups to large companies, that stack, which is so nimble and dynamic when you're small, when you're a large company, it becomes very fragmented and it's a difficult fruit salad to keep track of. And I went to a lot of large enterprises and I saw that they're suffering for the same problems. If they're in multiple clouds all over the world, if they're using cloud infrastructure, if they're using VMs, but tens of thousands of them, just the scale of the machines, the velocity of application delivery, fragmentation among many, many different clouds has really become a real problem for them to manage.
So DevOps was at the heart of what you were trying to do here? Is that?
It's more than just DevOps. Whether you're practicing, kind of true blue DevOps, or whether you're more of a traditional ITIL, the problem is the scale and the fragmentation of the underlying infrastructure that you're managing has really increased by orders of magnitude. And for folks in IT or DevOps, whatever you call them, the folks that actually have to keep the lights on, the amount of stuff you have to keep track on a daily basis to keep your critical applications running, to keep your critical business services running, has increased by 3 or 4 orders of magnitude, and you can't just solve that by throwing more people at the problem.
Right.
You have to have a way to automate around how do human beings make sense of all of this machine data, and that's what we're solving.
So to keep the lights on in a large web scale environment, you've got a ton of traffic, you've got everything built. To keep those lights on, how does a IT director or a CIO, how do they determine what solution they should use? How do they go about figuring that out?
You got to look at waves of innovation in the data center. So first wave of innovation around the data center has been virtualization and the fact that your infrastructure can be so much more dynamic. That applications have broken up from monolithic applications that are being deployed once a quarter to much smaller, more modular microservices that can be deployed once a week, once a day, 50 times a day. So that was the first wave of innovation. The second wave of innovation is the monitoring tools I used to use to monitor my legacy environment just haven't kept up. And in its place, you've seen this best of breed approach to monitoring different layers of your stack. So you'll use New Relic or AppDynamic for application monitoring, you'll use something like Nagios or Datadog for server monitoring, you use SolarWinds for network monitoring, and on and on and on. And the problem is not which tool is the best tool for monitoring a different nook and cranny of my site. The problem is I'm using 17 different tools. The human beings that actually have to get holistic visibility over what's going on have to connect the dots between a lot of different silos of the stack to get the overall health of an application or a business service or a business KPI. And the problem is it's just really scaled beyond the ability of human beings to put together and make sense of it.
So what does BigPanda bring to the table in this sort of new world where we're trying to keep the lights on, we're trying to grow, we're basically changing the tires as we're driving 60 miles an hour down the highway.
That's right.
What does BigPanda do in that environment? How do you guys help?
Sure. So we really provide a data science platform for the folks in IT service assurance. Whether you are an SRE or a level 1 NOC or a DevOps engineer, the problem is you have to keep track of 17 different things using 17 different tools to have an overall picture of what is the health of the business service of the application I keep track of. And to tie that together in an environment where you come to work, take someone like a News Corps. They came to us and said, look, we've got we've got Splunk, we've got AppDynamics, we've got SolarWinds and a bunch of other stuff, But now we have to turn that into the overall health of how is my website or media asset doing. By the time I'm filtering through the thousands of different alerts I see on my dashboards, and then piece them together to see which of those are actually related, a service disruption has gone unremediated for minutes, sometimes hours. And that's a very, very bad state of affairs. So what we do is we come and we say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. DevOps or IT, you don't have thousands of alerts from 17 different tools. You have a handful of real issues. They may have hundreds or thousands of underlying symptoms, but you don't have to be a data scientist to connect the dots. You can just come to work, detect very, very quickly exactly where you have issues, be able to triage that very, very quickly, and be able to see with the information we provide you, this critical issue. Is it affecting how is it affecting my critical business applications? Why is it happening? And what should I do about it? So we really help human beings get that time to detection and time to triage way down.
So it sounds like a holistic approach, but how do you get to what are the critical factors to measure? I mean, is that a business decision you guys sit down with a company and talk about, or how do you figure out what those critical factors that come through to you are?
It starts with bringing immediate value, and then it goes towards a more consultative approach. So most mature organizations already have some kind of monitoring infrastructure in place. They already know, hey, my network performance and my disk I/O performance is really important. I need some kind of way to track that. My application latency is super important that I be able to see that. My end user experience, my business KPIs, most of them already have a good idea of what they want to measure. And it's not that they don't have enough signal, it's that they have too much signal. And so what we do from day one is to say, hey, without changing any of the metrics you monitor, without changing any of the monitoring tools, bring us on top of them. We'll suck in all that data. We'll normalize it into one consistent language. Instead of having 15 different tools speaking very heterogeneous languages, they're now speaking one language. And then on top of that, we're doing a lot of data science to correlate those together. And so out of the box, we're already bringing you a consolidated value along whatever metric is important to you. I want to see things by application, microservice, business service, customer, SLA, team, data center. And that's day one, and that we bring immediately. Then we can work with you around, okay, now that I see that I've kind of made sense of all of this Tower of Babylon, now I can actually start thinking strategically about where do I want to go. How do I tie all that monitoring information into my workflow, whether it be tying it intelligently to Jira or Slack or ServiceNow or PagerDuty. I can start saying, now that I've made sense of all of this data, how do I want to start implementing better processes?
So you guys are kind of bringing data science to performance and monitoring and measurement.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're taking data science, machine learning, big data analytics, and having a very, very specific use case around IT operations. And how do we help IT teams scale themselves to manage web scale infrastructure?
Excellent. So Assaf, if you look forward 12 months from now, where would you like to see BigPanda? What changes would you like to make in the next 12 months?
Within BigPanda?
Yeah.
I'd say today we are really focused towards technical practitioners and helping IT operators, DevOps individuals really make sense and help do incident management much, much better. Probably the next step of where we're going is more around long-term analytics. So say, hey, not only are we giving you the ability to take an incident, see what's happening, gain historical context from similar incidents that have happened in the past, be able to bring in lots of other things like metrics and runbooks and CMDB, but also say, hey, we are this over time, we're this historical repository of all of your events. And that's a really rich repository over which to do analytics for long-term trends, long-term problem identification, and things like that. And that's really one of the big things we're working on.
So predictive, like what's going to happen on Black Friday for someone?
Both predictive and also historical.
Yep.
So, there's kind of 3 layers in incident management. There's incident resolution. I have a problem, I want to get back to service now. There's post-mortem, which is, we had a big issue a week ago, let's really delve into it and take the time to learn from it, make sure we document it, make sure it never happens again. And then there's long-term problem identification. Where do I have long-term reoccurring issues in my infrastructure, in my application, and how do I make kind of strategic fixes to that? And right now, we're really good at incident management and postmortems, and we're starting to come out with some really interesting stuff around analytics for long-term, but both for manager-level visibility and for long-term problem identification.
Excellent. Assaf, we look forward to that journey with you.
It was my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.